What is happening, everybody? It is Wednesday night. We've got an MLB slate to talk about, and also, it finally happened. Damian Lillard got traded, so Josh Engleman and I will break down that a little bit for you guys in a second as well, because I've been itching to talk some basketball, which is starting about a month from today. It's, I think, tomorrow. It's going to be, 5 weeks from tomorrow is going to be NBA opening day, so looking forward to that and all the tools and data that we're going to have at Stokast.com for NBA DFS. And now also breaking down the MLB show, talking about Dame, sponsored by Owner's Box today. If you guys want access to our NFL data and tools for free, sign up at Owner's Box using the link below. 1 free week of everything we have behind the paywall for NFL, all at your disposal. As you guys come in, do us a favor, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. And Josh, how anticipated is this Damian Lillard trade? It's finally done. It took forever.
I love it, man. I was so pumped to see it. I'm so happy that it wasn't Miami. Like, every bit of this was fun. It's a wild deal. I didn't think that this was a deal that could happen. I didn't think that the Bucks would ever trade Jrue like this, but they did. Love it. Couldn't be happier. I'm so this really lit the fire under me to be excited for the NBA. Because I've been loving baseball season because it's been great for DFS, and I like it as a DFS product. You just don't have to pay attention as much. You don't have to stress out over news and late swaps for hours at the moment lock happens. So that's been fun. But now I'm fully revved up and ready to go.
Yeah, and no drama in MLB like we have in NBA. Yeah. And first off, because I know this is something a lot of people have been discussing on the internets, is which trade offer did you think was better? The Miami Heat's platter of Tyler Hero, perhaps a Kyle Lowry expiring contract, and a handful of first-round picks, or what the Blazers ended up getting from the Bucks, which includes 3-team trades. So DeAndre Ayton, they get Jrue Holiday. They also get a first-round pick. It's been hotly debated. Some people, particularly Heat fans, think there's some sort of conspiracy against Miami. But which offer did you think was better?
It's not even remotely close. You can't even compare the two. The reason that Damian Lillard isn't on the Heat is because the deal that the Blazers just got is so many multiples better than the Heat version that it's comical to think that they're even comparable. So the Bucks, the version that happened is way better for the Blazers than it would have been if they traded them to the Heat.
The other thing too is, Jrue Holiday's not going to play for the Blazers. If he does, it's for the first month of the year or something like that. Long term, I mean, he's not playing for the Blazers.
No.
I'm very strongly of belief that he is a lot more trade value than Tyler Hero, who, by the way, the Blazers didn't have any use for Tyler Hero either. He's on a contract. Sometimes I'll overstate how bad the contract is. It's not a value contract. I'm not dying to build my team around Tyler Hero, especially when you consider the amount of injuries he's had. I saw a Heat beat reporter who had said that the Blazers had no clue what they were talking about by even considering OG Anunoby in a trade instead of Tyler Hero. And one of the main reasons he referenced was because of injury risk with OG Anunoby. How could you talk about injury risk of any player, not bring in Tyler Hero, who's played an average of 55 games over the course of his NBA career? He's never played 70. He missed basically the entire playoffs last year when he was hurt. I think that Jrue Holiday comes out looking a little bit underrated by the public based on some of the responses to it.
Oh, the Jrue Holiday is massively underrated by the public because the public only goes by 2K ratings and the way that people talk on ESPN. Defense doesn't count. So you don't add that back in. I think there's a case to be made that these guys are equals on the basketball court. I know Darko has Jrue by a half point compared to Dame, which I think is interesting to talk about. I think Jrue is about to get a bigger package than Dame did. I think he's a better trade asset than Damian Lillard. I'm fascinated by the way that it all went down, but we're talking about a guy that is a player option next year. He's making $35 million this year, and he fits everywhere. Every single team that could want him, he fits immediately, no matter what. It doesn't matter what else is there. We didn't have that same story for Dame. Hypothetically, there is no situation where Damian Lillard could have ended up on the Golden State Warriors. You could not go to the playoffs and play Dame and Steph in a backcourt together. Would not have been feasible in playoff basketball. You best believe that if they can flip Chris Paul for Jrue Holiday, they are doing that in a nanosecond, and holy shit, does he fit at Golden State.
One thing I really like about this is we were opening up is we want to talk about Damian Lillard. It's the end of the MLB season. There's only a few days left in the MLB regular season. And I was kind of thinking, I was like, we'll see how long we can talk about this and how upset people are going to be with us. The YouTube chat, though, was also really excited about the Damian Lillard trade. Everybody in chat, too, is kind of throwing in opinions, saying what they think about the basketball season. This is the news to be talking about. This matters a whole lot more than anything else that's been in the media lately. Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift bullshit. Don't give it. This is what we want to be talking about.
On bullshit.
Damian Lillard trade. So one other piece about the Blazers here is I don't think DeAndre Ayton is massively valuable, but, and maybe this is a little bit controversial. I think there's more upside in DeAndre Ayton than Tyler Hero, just from a standpoint of he's still a super athletic big man who I think can be remade by Portland. Am I confident it's going to happen? No, but I still have some faith and optimism that there is an upside in DeAndre Ayton. I don't think it's likely, but I think it's possible. What do you make of the Ayton portion of the trade?
I mean, I'd rather have DeAndre Ayton moving forward than Yusuf Nurkic. So, I get I think it's a nice rehab spot for the Blazers. They have no reason to not take that on. That's the ultimate lottery ticket for them. Maybe he steps it up and ends up being a little bit better. If he's the guy that he was at the end of the Suns going to the NBA Finals run and being able to play both ways, was really good. He could not have had a worse year last year. He was actively bad. Is that the situation, the team, the coach? I don't know. But I think he's a pretty good buy low opportunity that no one's going to really care about. Ultimately, I don't think it's going to matter. The Blazers are going to be dog shit for the next couple of years regardless. So DeAndre Ayton's about to put up a lot of nice counting stats.
And the other part of this too is what happens, because I see also people bring this up in the YouTube chat. I don't really understand what the Blazers are going to do with Jeremy Grant now. They just signed him to this big long-term deal, which
I have no issues with that deal at all.
But he doesn't fit in with the team. What are you going to do with Jeremy Grant now?
Trade him.
Think he gets traded?
Yeah, I have no issue with the deal. In a vacuum, Jeremy Grant plays no role for the Trailblazers, because that, they just don't need that guy. But they don't have people that, one, play his position. So I think he's perfectly suited to just soak up a bunch of shit for this team. He's solid, can play both ways. I think he just, plays out a year in Portland and then ends up somewhere else eventually.
On the Bucks,
I don't think it's a bad asset. So I don't mind signing him to that deal. I think as long as he doesn't get injured, he's imminently tradable because of his skill set.
Now, the Bucks side of this, they've got a team built around Giannis Antetokounmpo and Jrue Holiday. They're going to be a juggernaut on offense. I do think that the combination of Giannis and Brook Lopez is going to help cover up a lot of the defensive deficiencies of Damian Lillard. But Josh, should they be the betting favorite to win the NBA championship, or should it still be the Denver Nuggets, who were the favorites when we woke up this morning?
I don't have they're in the mix. I don't have an immediate top team. It's the Bucks, it's the Nuggets, it's the Celtics to me, for sure in those top three spots. I think the market mildly overreacted. I think it bumped them up a little bit too far. It's the perfect situation for Dame. Dame is dog shit defensively. He has to go under on most things. That's great because the Bucks are going to be playing a drop with, arguably the two best guys that can do that in the league in Brook Lopez and Giannis. So they're going to paper over all the problems. What this ends up looking like in the playoffs is going to be fascinating to see. I do like the idea of trading Jrue's perimeter defense for Dame's creation and offense. I think that balances the Bucks a little bit better. I think the biggest nobody's going to be surprised that this is about to come out of my mouth. The most important thing for the Milwaukee Bucks at this point is the health of Chris Middleton.
I wouldn't say most important. It's still the health of Giannis, because I still think Giannis is I'm not confident in the health of Giannis at this point in his career either.
Yeah, but if Giannis isn't healthy, then they don't have a choice. They have no chances to do anything whatsoever. The moment you write out Giannis, you just the Bucks just don't count any longer. So that doesn't count to me, because that's the case for if Jokic isn't healthy for the Nuggets, then he's the most important. Yeah, I agree. That goes without saying. That tippy top guy, if they're not there, they're not winning shit. Middleton has been in a free fall since the moment I said that I would rather have him over Jimmy Butler 4 years ago. If that doesn't stop, they got to get off of that deal, get out of Chris Middleton business, and figure out what's next. He is the linchpin to everything, because if he's not what you need him to be, I don't think they have enough.
There's multiple Eric Lindquists in the YouTube chat. I'm very confused by this. I know one of the Erics hid one of the other Erics. I don't know who's
That's
the
not
real
possible,
one.
right?
We've
Well,
got
the only
Eric.
one, the real one is the one with the wrench.
Maybe. There's no way to know for sure.
If it's not the real one that has a wrench, then whoever has the wrench as Eric Lindquist that isn't real still works here.
Do we have multiple Erics here?
I hope not. Well, like Eric in general? Eric's?
There's only one way to solve this.
There's more than one Eric.
No, let's fire everybody named Eric who works here. Then we don't have to worry about any of this confusion. We get rid of all of them.
No problems on my end. I assume.
No,
we can. EMAC can collect Social Security at this point, man. He's going to be fine. He doesn't need this paycheck.
That's true. EMAC's been collecting Social Security for 20, 25 years now. He's got it made.
Yeah, his Social Security number is 1.
EMAC getting buried for being old will never get old to me.
No. It's certainly not going to get older than him.
Anything else you want to add about the Damian Lillard trade?
I mean, the most interesting pieces to me aren't Dame. It's where does Jrue Holiday end up? What does that deal end up looking like? I mean, he's live for everywhere. Where do you want? Okay, where do you want Jrue Holiday to go? Because you can name like 10 contenders, and it's just like, yep, it'll fit like a glove.
All right. So it depends. Like, is this in terms of entertainment? It's which realistic team do I think he makes best? Like which
what is the best scenario to maximize like quality basketball? What creates the best scenario for the best like final 4 of the NBA? That's the way that I look at it. How do we make the playoffs as good as possible?
Yeah, Jrue to Boston.
Okay. They're the favorites if that happens, I think, pretty overwhelmingly. You know, it's going to be like probably Brogdon, Robert Williams, and some picks or something crazy. Like they're the top team then. It's not close. To replace, like, for everything that they could do. So that would be Jrue, Jrue, Brown, Tatum, Horford, Porzingis starting 5? Oh, that's terrifying, dude.
Yeah, maybe does Horford come off the bench then? Maybe they go Robert Williams at center, Porzingis.
I think Robert Williams is in a deal if Drew's coming in.
Yeah, good point.
I love the Boston shout. Like, I think it'd be fascinating if Memphis did it, but maybe they don't do that now because Marcus Smart is there. If the Pelicans didn't re-up CJ McCollum, Jrue Holiday would be an absolute amazing fit going back to New Orleans. I love the idea of Golden State. I don't know if they'll be able to pull that off, but like, sign me up for that 10 times out of 10. Lakers and Clippers, obviously both very viable in this spot. Sacramento is like one of the teams at the top that I don't really see making that move. Philly, obviously. This one wouldn't work, and it wouldn't matter for what I'm saying about like trying to make the best playoffs, but I mean, I would give anything to see him go to Orlando and be the adult in the room running that team. That would be fascinating to watch moving forward. I'm going to put this one out there for right now. Can we get him to Cleveland and ship out Donovan Mitchell?
I'm probably a little higher on Donovan Mitchell than you.
Yeah, but I don't think Donovan Mitchell's very high on Cleveland.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I don't think he's particularly high on Cleveland either.
Yeah. Can that happen? Is there a 3-way deal where the Blazers walk away with like the million picks that the Knicks have and some younger dudes, and then the Knicks end up with Donovan Mitchell, and then
Jack Settleman takes
Holiday.
A victory lap for saying the Knicks were going to get Donovan Mitchell 3 years ago or whatever.
You get Garland and Jrue Holiday in the backcourt. Obviously fits a lot better. You know, you've got the 2-headed monster there as well. That's the one that I think is interesting. Atlanta would have been fascinating, but I don't think that they're in any real position to do that now that they've re-upped DeJounte. I love all of it. The dude in chat that was shouting out Chicago being or the Bulls being a title contender if they made that trade, not quite.
Yeah, not quite. All right, guys, don't worry. We're going to start talking about some baseball now. But one thing I did want to say is we had, who was it in the chat? Oh, here it was. Arnold Lane said about 15 minutes in and still no baseball talk. Look, I'm more upset that I haven't talked about basketball in 3 months. We'll talk about the baseball slate now as well. So if you guys haven't done yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We got some baseball talk about too here, Josh. And
I'm willing to go the full hour right now just to piss everybody else off. We can drop those 20 people that are going to bitch about it, and I'll be very happy about it.
I wouldn't mind it either, but we still got the baseball slate to talk about. Only a handful of pay-up options on the night. We've got Framber Valdez. We've got Pablo Lopez. We've got Garrett Cole. Of those three, there's very distinct tiers as far as ownership goes. Pablo Lopez, super, super chalky, project for 37% ownership. You've got Framber Valdez coming somewhere in the middle at 15% ownership. And then nobody playing Garrett Cole today on the road against the Toronto Blue Jays, projected for just 3% ownership. Of these three, Josh, I think it's pretty clear that if you're playing cash games, you're going to Pablo Lopez. But in tournaments, all things considered, ownership, price point, projection, who is your preferred option of Valdez, Lopez, and Garrett Cole?
Lopez. It's too much to ignore. He's incredible. His strikeout prop is insane. The matchup is incredible against Oakland. He doesn't really get bombed or anything like that. The only thing that's going to stop Pablo Lopez from succeeding today, that is outside of our control, is simply just they take him out earlier than we would expect them to take him out because it's his last start for the regular season. I don't expect that to happen. So I'm going to have like 70-ish% of Lopez and feel good about it. I will say, if Garrett Cole is really 3% owned, which I don't expect him to be, that is criminally under-owned for what this slate is. He should be 10 to 15. So 3 is like aggressively wrong at 12K to me. But he is very difficult to get to.
The other thing, too, that kind of becomes wonky at this point in the season is, is there a need for Garrett Cole to work super deep into the game? You know what I mean? Like the Yankees have already been eliminated from the playoffs. And I do get a little concerned with Cole, where it's like, is he just going to come out after 5 innings where it's just like pad some stats as he's on his way to his Cy Young? So it is something that adds a little bit of variance. But to your point, if he's actually only going to be 3% on, he's under-owned.
Yeah, I look at Cole in these scenarios, or like any guys in these scenarios, they're going to have a shorter leash when it's going wrong. I don't think that they're going to just like take him out after 5 if he's cruising. But like the moment you start getting any real base runners later, they're not going to let anybody out there laboring if it doesn't matter, particularly Cole. But if he's just like spinning a gem, I assume they just like let that continue because there's little risk in it. My guess.
Super chat from Jeremy Savage. He makes, by the way, if anybody was in here upset about Jeremy Savage, $50 super chats are saying we love the NBA. That's it. Look at that. We got $50 for talking about the NBA for the first 15 minutes of the show. Time well spent, Josh.
Jeremy Savage is flush with cash after shipping a GPP last night. So that is why we're getting that $50 super chat. Not that I'm upset about it. Thank you very much for that super chat, but that is why it's coming in. He shipped some MLB contests last night.
Which, Jeremy, congrats. Love to see it. But I prefer the narrative to be that it's because we talked about NBA to start the show.
I prefer that narrative as well. I mean, look, I think that the large majority of chat would rather us talk about the NBA right now than hash out this baseball slate.
And shout out to Chris Williams, who gifted out 5 YouTube memberships in the chat. So, Chris, thank you very much for that. As we talk about the mid-range of pitchers, Josh, we have... What did I just take? Oh, here we go. All right, so in the mid-range, we have a pretty big drop-off in salary. Once you get to Framber Valdez, the next cheapest pitcher is going to be Jose Barrios at $8,600. We've got Griffin Canning at $8,300, Bryce Miller at $8,100. So let's group in all of the pitchers from $7,000 to $8,600. So that covers Barrios, Canning, Bryce Miller, Dane Dunning, Wade Miley, Matt Waldron. Of that group of pitchers, I am getting to the most of Jose Barrios. Is it the same for you?
It was this morning. It is very much not the case now. Really curious to see where the ownership ends up going. He's at 30% ownership on our... Well, he was at 30% ownership. I assume it's still basically the same. I had a ton of him earlier. He was my second most exposed pitcher. I now have 8% of Barrios. When I took my lap through my updates at like 5 o'clock, his outs prop was like an out and a half below where I had him earlier today and below what he normally does on a day-to-day basis. So I want to say that his outs prop put him right around 16 outs, but he normally goes like 17 and a half. That's where I had him projected. So I feel like the Blue Jays are like somehow in the betting market, he is subtly being discounted by an out or two. And that's making me a little bit nervous about that ownership number. I am now getting to the Yankees bats a bit in comparison to the Barrios ownership, whereas this morning I did not have that.
Yeah, so we've got Barrios, to your point. His over-under for outs is 15.5 over at FanDuel. Juice towards the over at minus 128. Yeah. I do wonder if it's just a thing where this game is pretty important for the Blue Jays. They're getting close to clinching a playoff spot. Maybe they might have a shorter leash with Barrios. So maybe that's what the assumption is potentially here. He does have a matchup on paper also that's very favorable because you got some bats you have to worry about in the Yankees lineup, like Aaron Judge, like Giancarlo Stanton, but our guys who, when they don't make contact, do strike out a whole bunch. And the bottom of the Yankees lineup is just absolute dog shit now. And then also the mid-range kind of sucks today. There aren't that many mid-range price pitchers. So I'm right about even with the field on Barrios. I have him in 35% of lineups. So I'm getting there. Not substantially different from the field, but I'm with the field.
Okay. Look, like I said, I had a ton earlier today, and he projects well. But right now, I don't see him all that different than, and I don't like Griffin Canning today, but I am getting to Griffin Canning. But I think both of those guys look really similar. But like, there's no situation to me where Jose Barrios should be twice as owned as Griffin Canning. I think that's what's causing my bigger issue.
Yeah, and then for me also, it's like there's these other guys that are picking up ownership here. And I do prefer Griffin Canning to like Dane Dunning is picking up ownership today. Wade Miley is picking up ownership. I don't have a mass amount of interest in those guys. It's a crappy mid-range. There aren't that many good options there. Any of those other guys that are picking up ownership, whether it be Wade Miley, he is 13% owned. Dane Dunning, 14% owned. Is any of that interesting to you?
I had more Dunning earlier today. I don't have him now. The guy that I'm getting to at the bottom is Sean Manaea, and I guess Zach Thompson to a degree. But this mid-tier, I am basically not in it outside of Canning.
Yeah. And I'm even with the field on Jose Barrios, underweight to everybody else in this mid range. I don't really love the options there. Some super chats that we've gotten in. Also, shout out to Malukar, who gifted out 5 YouTube subscriptions. So, Malukar, we appreciate you. Kobe says, I love Lamp. I love you, Kobe. I love you, Kobe. Thank you for the super chat. And then Ryan Renebaum says, who is the best pitcher and stack for a FanDuel small field single entry? All right, so let's go and look.
Lopez and somebody. I'm guessing, unless Pablo Lopez is 40 grand on FanDuel and I don't know about it, I gotta assume it's Pablo Lopez. Or Garrett Cole's price is like comically low.
All right, so let's look at the pitching first, because that is what we're talking about right now. And then I'll look at some of the stacks for FanDuel as well. But at least as far as pitcher goes, you do have a little bit of a price discount on Cole, but it's like nothing. He's 11,100.
Okay.
We've got Pablo Lopez is 11,300, but Lopez is only 17% owned on FanDuel.
Yeah, Lopez is definitely the answer for pitcher then.
Yeah, it's going to be Lopez for me. You could also make a case for Zach Thompson at $5,900 on FanDuel, but I'm going to lean towards Pablo Lopez as being my favorite single entry pitcher. As far as offenses are concerned over on FanDuel, let's see, where would I go? He's playing one lineup on FanDuel.
Colorado, Minnesota, Cubs. I think after you get Lopez, like you really got to, some of the Dodgers is fine. I don't know how you go to Atlanta if you're going to Lopez. Yeah. I think you need to find a little bit of value. Twins probably fit pretty well there, and then whatever else you can get.
So like the best value team I would consider on FanDuel is probably the Brewers at their prices, but they're also really popular. They're the 3rd most popular offense on the slate. So that would have me getting away from them. I mean, another team too that I think if you're going cheap as a secondary stack, the Cardinals against Wade Miley, the best hitters in the Cardinals lineup do hit left-hand pitching, and there's no ownership going there at all. So the Cardinals offense at 3% ownership on FanDuel, that's decent as a secondary stack because you could make lineups that are Dodgers with the Cardinals as a secondary stack and get to Pablo Lopez.
I don't want to talk about it. The St. Louis Cardinals are currently the team that I am most exposed to. So this is not a conversation I'm ready for yet.
All right. So
I'm still trying to choke it back down when I throw up in my mouth.
All right. So there we go, Ryan. St. Louis Cardinals. I think that's what we want to go with in single entry paired with Pablo Lopez. It seems like Josh and I are on the same page with that one. I think that is a reasonable way to end up going about building your FanDuel single entry line. If anybody else has questions for us, throw them into the Discord channel. I'll be checking that as we go to make sure we hit on everything. Cheap pitchers on the slate, Josh. What is standing out to you? Because on the high end, I'm getting to Pablo Lopez the most. At the mid-range, I'm getting to Jose Barrios the most. But where overall the bulk of my pitcher exposure comes is really here on the cheap end with some of these just shitty value pitchers that I'm just hoping and praying don't get absolutely annihilated today. Which one stands out the most to you, or maybe a group of ones that are interchangeable to you?
It's Sean Manaea and Zach Thompson. They're the guys that are getting the ownership. They're the guys that I am getting to. I'm a bit over on Manaea. I'm basically equal on Zach Thompson. The Manaea one, like, I like him, and I like the fact that it's in San Francisco. It's obviously terrifying against San Diego. I'm crossing my... I don't expect to get like a shitty San Diego lineup, just given where we stand in the league right now, but I'm hoping that somehow happens. I'm just hoping the park saves him. He certainly has the strikeout stuff, but that's mostly against lefties. And then for Zach Thompson, I mean, it's just kind of... He's 5,500 or 5,900 rather. Like, he's just... he just works in this spot. It's not, I don't have like fun Zach Thompson things to talk about. His price tag looks good, and he's playing the Milwaukee Brewers, and they're not very good. Like, he's not great. He just happens to be a real MLB starter at this price tag that isn't Joey Estes or Noah Davis. So he's sort of just like the cheapest dude that you could comfortably get to.
I am getting to Sean Manaea as my second most rostered pitcher on the slate behind Pablo Lopez. I don't feel great about it. I do think there's a chance, though. We don't have that Padres lineup officially yet, do we?
No.
I think this could be the first day we see the Padres just kind of pack it in and rest people. They are not going to make the playoffs. We've kind of known for a little while they're not going to make the playoffs, but I don't think they're officially eliminated, but the only way for them to actually make it is they have to win out, and every single team ahead of them has to lose out, which is not a realistic scenario. They've been playing their guys every day over the last couple of months to try to make a playoff push. I think we could really see this be a day where it's like Tatis out, Soto out, Machado out. And I know part of that is a little bit of a pipe dream for me because it's just where my exposure is with this team. But I really do think this is not a bad spot to be attacking the Padres, and with a pitcher in Sean Manaea, who has a track record of being good. He was terrible at the start of the season. He's been good in previous years. He's also pitched better as of late. He's super cheap at only $6K. Like you mentioned, one of the most favorable pitchers parks we have in baseball. He's going to be pitching home. So I like Sean Manaea quite a bit.
Yeah, so do I. I think they're live to sit different dudes for the Pods, given like their current setup. You laid it out perfectly. Their reverse magic number is 1. If anything goes negative for them or all of the people ahead of them, that's when they get put out to pasture. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that you see a different lineup later on, or that like even they move people around in the end, which is helpful. Whatever happens, like I have the good Padres lineup in my stuff, and I have a bunch of Manaea. The only thing that could possibly happen is it gets better for Manaea. There's no real situation where it's going to get worse.
One thing that I kind of wish would have happened is we have the Mets in the afternoon game doubleheader. The Marlins are going to lose. They're down 9-2 right now. If the Marlins were to win that game, that would have eliminated the Padres from playoff contention. And I'm fairly sure that is the case. And
I mean, basically, like if the Marlins win, the Reds win, the Cubs win, like I'm just looking at the teams that are in this wild card mix. Like if any of those teams win any games in the next couple of days, they're dead. Like it's just... Playoffstatus.com, by the way, is the best spot to go for like that sort of stuff.
Yeah, what time do the Cubs...
It's the most generic website in the world, but they have like the real tiebreakers and everything.
Cubs play at 7:20, right? If the Cubs end up winning that game against the Braves, and the Braves are pitching Vines today, it's not like they've got one of their studs out on the mound or anything like that. To what you had said before, there is absolutely a scenario where the Padres are officially eliminated from the playoffs prior to their game starting. And then they just like, hey, hey, screw it, we're yanking guys, which also I'm going to bring in a betting angle to this. If you guys have been following some of the bets that I've been posting for MLB on Twitter, what I'm doing is finding teams that clinch playoff spots or finding some of these playoff scenarios. And something like last night, Phillies clinched the playoffs. You see all the videos online of all of them, drinking champagne, boozing it up in the locker room. So I say, hey, I'm betting the Pirates plus 188, and then wake up today. They were plus 188 last night, and it was a pick 'em this morning. We could get a very similar sort of situation where if the Padres get eliminated from the playoffs, they start to pull guys from the lineup, and there could be a lot of line value on the Padres. So keep an eye out on that as well as a betting angle. Cheap end, I'm with you. I'm on Shomani and Zach Thompson are my two most rostered cheap pitchers here. And Zach Thompson is somebody who's not particularly great, but he's got a decent matchup against the Milwaukee Brewers. And for a pitcher as cheap as he is in both DraftKings and FanDuel, he generates strikeouts. A lot of strikeout upside for pitchers that cheap.
Absolutely. That's really the only appeal that you're going to get out of Zach Thompson at 5,900 other than his price tag. But, he's getting ownership and he should be.
Are there any other cheap pitchers that are at all important to you tonight?
I have 5% of Joey Estes. That's just randomness. Don't play Noah Davis. That should be incredibly obvious. We've talked about everybody else that I have. I don't like that I have Griffin Canning, but I understand why he's getting ownership. This matchup doesn't fit him well, and that's really the problem. So boom bust spot for Canning. Happy to get there. But we kind of talked about everybody that matters for pitching. Back to the Damian Lillard stuff again.
We do it. Well, we do have a super chat about Joey Estes, so we can do more of a deep dive here. I'll pull up some of the data on him from Fangraphs so we could talk about him a little bit more in depth, because we did have Miguel P left us a super chat, said Joey Estes, any analysis on the guy? You said you'd 5% exposure to him, Josh?
I do. I wish that would be 0.
I don't have exposure to him today.
No, he was the number 14 Oakland A's prospect coming into this year, just to put that out there. He's 21 in the minors this season. He threw 104 innings in Double-A with a 491 xFIP and a 23% K rate. That should probably tell you everything you need to know.
Yeah, we've got Joey Estes. You can't really take anything from his big league numbers because it's only been 4 2/3 innings this year. But I bring this up all the time. When there is a young pitcher, we don't have all that much major league data on, I really will lean on some of the futures projections from Steamer, Depth Chart, the bat zips, and all of them are pretty consensus being this guy sucks right now. All of them having the fair talent level north of 5 as far as ERA, and as a guy who's not going to generate strikeouts. So every single projection model says north of 5 ERA, south of 20% K rate. In fact, as low as 16.9% at Steamer. Depth Charts also has him at 16.9%. So based on that, it's somebody who very difficult for me to get to. I'd much rather be stacking against him than playing him.
Completely agree. Look, me having 5% is just that just shows up. I'll talk about the guys that I have a ton of, but I'm going to get little bits. I have small amounts of Sheehan, Vines, Jameson Taillon, the guys that we haven't really talked about, but I'm not going to talk about somebody because I have 2% of them. That's not the guys that we talk about are the guys that are going to get real ownership in all contests. Estes isn't one of those.
Couple of questions coming into the Discord, so we'll answer those. And we'll build some lineups in the lineup generator and see what the lineup generator is liking for today. My hunch, it is going to like the Los Angeles Dodgers, who I also like quite a bit as a stack today. But Kapanikella says, glad you're back on the show. Happy to be back. And then he says, how are we doing single entry stacks on DK tonight? So for me, single entry DK, what I assume is going to differentiate my lineup the most is I do have Sean Manaea in my single entry lineup. I don't think he's going to be massively popular. I found it really difficult to get away from the Dodgers, even in single entry, where I think they're probably going to be more popular. I am still playing the Los Angeles Dodgers in single entry. I don't always do that with the super popular Coors Field games, but I am today with the Dodgers. Is there a team that stands out the most to you for single entry, Josh? Is it the Dodgers? Is it the Cardinals? You mentioned you were getting them a good amount.
It would be the Dodgers, right out of the gate. If we have to pick, I would start there for sure. I do like the idea of your second, the second pitcher, either flip-flopping Lopez to Valdez or Cole to get different with that Dodgers stack, or going Lopez plus someone really off the beaten path. The other teams that I have that we're clearly about to get to are the Rockies, the Cardinals, the Twins, and the Yankees. So I'm guessing the Twins would be my second. That would be like my second option, just because I think they actually have like real top stack odds. Maybe the Rockies, but I just generally don't like the Rockies, but I like the Minnesota side.
So for me, if I am just playing my best lineups, it would be the Dodgers for this. If you wanted to be contrarian, here's a couple places I think you could go. You could go to the Braves, who are a pay up stack that people are not going to be getting to in single entry because everybody's going to want to play the Dodgers. So either the Braves, or if you want to go cheaper, I'm on the same page as Josh. I like the Cardinals as a cheap contrarian team today. So those are the three teams that I would consider. I think the Dodgers are the best overall. If you want to pay up and be a little bit more contrarian, the Braves, if you want to go a little bit cheaper while still being contrarian, the Cardinals, the way that I would go. We've got Einsteinium wants to know, are you getting exposure to Darius Vines? That is not somebody I'm getting exposure to.
No.
Yeah, Darius Vines, not for me today, Einsteinium. And then DraftKings wants to know favorite DK single entry stack. So yeah, same question and yeah, same answer. Appreciate the questions though, DraftKings. But once again, just to reiterate, it is the Dodgers are who I am playing in single entry. If you want to pay up and be contrarian, the Braves, or if you want to go cheaper and be contrarian, the Cardinals.
We just got the Rangers lineup. I think that's the only two lineups that we still need are Giants and Padres. And I don't find either one of those stacks to be like a priority for today. So I think we got I'm going to start building now because I don't really give a shit about Giants Padres, but Rangers, Semien, Seager, Logue, so like it's their standard issue stuff. So Texas still looks good. Texas still looks like Texas, at least.
Yeah, I have a 10% of Texas stacks right now, and I don't have any of the Giants. So, like you, whatever their lineup is, I don't care. Like, unless they have like Babe Ruth and Hank Aaron in their lineup today, which they aren't going to. I'm not going to play them. And even if they did a Babe Ruth, they'd pinch it for him in the third inning anyway. So,
I mean, could you? He just would have to be really not good at baseball at this point.
You wouldn't think so.
Definitely a little slimmer than he was his playing weight.
Well, sure, but that's because, like the worms have eaten at him a little bit and whatnot. Here's a question, though, because we always get asked these historical questions. Not that we get asked, but people debate them online, like Michael Jordan versus LeBron James. And I always default on like evolution and how the game is improved. But do you assume somebody like Babe Ruth would he find a way to be good in today's baseball? Or would it just be so far past him that as good as he was for his era wouldn't matter?
I mean, he's certainly like one of the leaders in the clubhouse of having a chance to be good now, but I assume all those guys back in the day, like it's just, we're talking about very different things. These aren't comparable sports to when Babe Ruth played. So it's really hard to even like talk that through. I don't know. Like, does he work out at that point in time? Like, I mean, like literally like lift weights, do anything. No, that dude was just doing 12-ounce curls and going to the stadium wrecked.
Yeah, so. I'm not even sure he was doing 12-ounce curls. There was a story about Babe Ruth, and I'll have to look this up because I'm pretty sure I'm not fabricating this, but there was a double header that he was playing. It was, I don't remember this when he was on the Yankees or the Red Sox, but he had to be hospitalized in between games because he ate so many hot dogs from the vending stand in between games. He ate like 14 hot dogs and had to be rushed to the hospital with indigestion. So I tend to think he wouldn't be super keen to work out in today's day either. He'd be like, what do you mean I can't have cigarettes? And then it would be like a breaking point for him.
He was born in 1895.
He'd probably be upset there's minorities on his team also. There'd be all kinds of issues.
Yeah, I think it's probably a pretty safe bet that he wouldn't be stoked what the locker room looks like when he gets there.
Yeah, I'm out on Babe Ruth in modern day baseball, and I still think the Giants would pinch hit for anybody they have in that lineup. One of the reasons that I'm not playing them today. Let's start by building some lineups on DraftKings here, Jordan. And by the way, if you guys want to sign up for the lineup generator, use the link below. Less than $10, get access to baseball lineups built for you for DraftKings, for FanDuel, up to 20 of them. You can export them and then play them right into the contest that you were choosing to play. So if you're a new DFS player, which I assume at this point of the baseball season, probably not a lot of you, but who knows? Maybe somebody has been playing football and you just are trying to find a way to get some action in between NFL slates. This is going to be the easiest way to go ahead and do it. By the way, Malakar saying that he was born 54 years before Babe Ruth. Look at you, Malukar.
What?
All right, let's go contrarian lineups. And
Emac was born 54 years before Babe Ruth. Is that what I'm
no,
hearing?
Malukar said that he was. Emac probably was as well, though.
Okay. Okay.
Emac fought in the War of 1812.
Yeah, Emac, are you around? What was Babe Ruth like in real life?
It's a good question. Did he really?
Surely you were at the July 11th, 1914 debut.
The rumor is that when he was calling his shot, him and Emac were drinking buddies, and he was actually just pointing to Emac in center field. He wanted to make sure that he noticed him. I'm going to stick to it. Yeah, he was just shouting out Emac. He's like, hey, look, Emac's in the bleachers today. And he wanted to make sure, he was really pointing out and just be like, hey, are we still on to go to the titty bar after the game today? We'll get some hot dogs and bring them there. And, Emac was just like, hey, yeah, okay, man. Then he hit the ball to center field. So the whole thing was misconstrued.
Right. I mean, like there weren't cell phones or you couldn't just text him. Like, think about that. You had to really plan. Hey, you didn't want to get left in the lurch. So you're just pointing out like, hey, man, I'll point to you. Let me know if you're still going out for beers later. That's where we're at right now. That's where we drove it. We should have kept talking about basketball, man.
Emac is the Forrest Gump of DFS and sporting events in many ways.
I agree.
What are you doing, Jordan?
Jordan's waiting for me to make the obvious potential jokes there that I cannot say. He has AIDS.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say that he got Jenny pregnant.
Yeah, great ping ponger.
Yeah, and also he could if you drop matchsticks in front of Emac, he'll count them quick. He'll know the exact number.
Different movie.
Let's see, what are we getting to here? Go to stack exposures, Jordan. So we built lineups here for DraftKings using the lineup generator. Getting to all of the Dodgers here. 80% of our lineups contain the Dodgers. That's my most rostered team as well. I have just a ton of Dodgers for today. Josh, how aggressively are you playing the Dodgers? Is it a team that you view as being appropriately owned, under-owned, or over-owned for tonight?
They're appropriately owned. I'm going to be right around the field in aggregate exposure. That's my expectation, at least. I assume that I'm really light on them from a stack standpoint. Like last time I looked, I had like 40% of them in stacks, but 100% of them outside of stacks. So I think they're going to be filling out basically everything that I do, but maybe not a giant stand.
Arnold Lane is confirming it, by the way. The Ruth story is true. There we go.
The hospitalization for hot dogs story?
No. That he was pointing to BMAC, I assume.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, I assume that's what he meant by the Ruth story. I mean,
fair.
The hot dog one is what it probably is what he was confirming was the hot dog story.
No. He ran across the United States multiple times.
I also think that some things it could have been a combination of the two. Like maybe he was just blowing EMAC in between double headers, and then he swallowed something he didn't mean to, and he'd be rushed to the hospital. There's a lot. It's not
Rod Stewart, man.
Yeah, hey, there's a lot of these stories. It's how they go. It's kind of like wives' tales. One person tells them to another person, and then you really lose the heart of the story, which is the real relationship between EMAC and Babe Ruth. And that's the core of all this. That's the core of all of it.
He went by George Ruth forever until EMAC started calling him Babe.
That's how he got the nickname.
Yeah, of course.
George Herman Ruth. I think that was his middle name.
The Sultan of Squat.
Yeah. That's what EMAC's called when he hosts shows, though. Other stacks outside of the Dodgers, some Rockies, some Twins. Look, Cardinals here as well, Josh. We're getting to 20% Cardinals stacks in the lineup generator. So fair to assume is the Cardinals the contrarian team you're taking like the biggest stand on tonight?
Probably. It's either look, I had four before this. I had four teams that were relatively low owned. Well, that I was getting to big stands on: Yankees, Cardinals, Rockies, Dodgers. I think the Cardinals are the lowest owned of those teams.
By the way, Malakar in chat said that he did a book report on Babe when he was in school. Hey, when Babe Ruth was in school, he did a book report on EMAC. So that's how we learned about it.
Even though they had books then.
I mean, it was Braille because it was before written was actually created, but they were able to feel the page.
Stone tablets.
Yeah. Just pictures of dinosaurs on walls. Let's see.
Sense.
What players we getting exposure to here? We've got if you're stacking the Dodgers, these are the players that showed up most predominantly on DraftKings. We'll build FanDuel lineups after this as well. Miguel Rojas, Mookie Betts, Will Smith, Freddie Freeman, JD Martinez, James Outman, David Peralta. I mean, like basically all of our most rostered hitters here are coming from the Dodgers. Let me see for me. Who am I getting to the most? So for me, it is Max Muncy the most, followed by James Outman, then Miguel Rojas, followed by Freddie Freeman, Mookie Betts in terms of my Dodgers exposure. Pitchers here, we're getting to a bunch of Sean Manaea, Pablo Lopez, Zach Thompson, Griffin Canning, overweight to the field on Griffin Canning in these lineups here, Josh. Not extremely, but he is in, a little over 20% of lineups. So there's a lot of similarities in between the pitchers we talked about and what our lineup generator is giving us as well.
Seems like two smart gentlemen on this show are on all of the good stuff without having talked to each other about it prior to this. I like it.
No. We were talking about basketball before this.
We were. The important things for today.
The important things. Let's build some FanDuel lineups now, Jordan. And once again, if you guys want to sign up for the lineup generator, want lineups built for you, sign up for this lineup generator. Use the link below, less than $10 when you sign up for the first time. Yeah, let's go contrarian again, Jordan. We're still going to get to a bunch of Dodgers, but I don't mind them for today. Yeah, first lineup there. Dodger stack. Curious what else we get to. This, I think every lineup we saw go past was Dodgers in some way. So stack exposures, 78% Dodgers, followed by the Twins, followed by the Cardinals. Once again, very similar teams to what we're getting to on DraftKings. So no matter what site you guys are playing on, in general, our projections are liking the same players across the two different sites. Yeah. Dodgers on the high end, Twins are popular, seems more or less warranted. If you're going to be contrarian, Cardinals team that's standing out the most here. Go to the player exposures, Jordan. See the pitchers that we've got on FanDuel.
Zach Thompson,
5,900 on FanDuel. I assume that, Pablo Lopez second. That's basically all of our pitcher exposure. Pablo Lopez.
I don't love Zach Thompson on FanDuel.
It's tough to get the quality start bonus out of him.
He's obviously less likely to take the win. The strikeout stuff is just not going to be comparable to the Cole, Lopez, Valdez trio at the top. I don't really like paying down for him today.
He only has one quality start the entire year. He's only gone past 5 innings once the entire season. So that is problematic for a couple of reasons on FanDuel. The quality start, obviously, but then also just the win bonus. If you're going to go 5 innings, you're eligible for the win bonus, hurts your odds. But then also, if he's kind of been capped out at 5 innings in most of his starts, if he goes 4, then he's totally not able to get the win bonus there. Players we're getting to the most as far as the hitters are concerned, which, surprise, surprise, the Los Angeles Dodgers, Freddie Freeman, Mookie Betts, David Peralta, JD Martinez. No issues with any of that. As far as the Cardinals we're getting the most of, Juan Yepez, followed by Tommy Edman. Tommy Edman, by the way, also is projecting well for us in Odd Shopper as a home run bet for today. But which hitters are you getting the most exposure to from the Cardinals tonight, Josh?
On my prior run, I still have about a minute left on my update, but I don't think this is going to be changing all that much. It was Edman, Baker, and Yepez.
Let me look.
You know how we feel about people named Baker around these parts? Got to get them.
Got it. It's needed. All right, let's see. I also have...
Who's this dude hitting 7th for the Cardinals?
I was about to say. So what I'm doing right now is I'm looking at my most rostered Cardinals hitters. My most rostered Cardinals hitter today is Juniel Huaracoto. You want to try to pronounce his name too?
Uniel, I would go for there for sure. Unial is definitely the first name. I don't know. I went quinceañera on the first one. That joke bombed, so I don't have a clue. Unial is definitely the first name.
So, by the way, this is solely due to price point, right? And also the fact that just like I like the Cardinals as a contrarian team today. He's the flat min.
Yeah.
In terms of like you look at this guy, he's a 30-year-old career minor leaguer. So from that standpoint, is this guy any good? No, not really, but he's hitting in sort of the middle of a lineup for a team that I think's in a decent spot, and he's super cheap. So he just enables you to save a bunch of salary. I'm not going to go out and say that this guy whose name, by the way, apologies to him and his family, but I don't know how to pronounce your last name, sir. No. But we'll call him JQ because those are his initials.
Yeah,
but yeah, like he's my most rostered player from the Cardinals, unfortunately.
I'm gonna have a bunch. I'm dialing my stuff back now. Like when I just ran everything, I got to 20% aggregate Cardinals and 39 stacks. I'm gonna walk that back a hair just for obvious reasons. That's just not a stand that I need to take in that way. I'm neutral to the field on the Dodgers, by the way. No, I don't need to reduce them to 66%. Just 1% reduction. That would have been a bit more extreme than I needed to.
Yeah, so in terms of Cardinals, I'm getting the most of after our guy JC. It is then Tommy Edman as the second most rostered Cardinal. Again, so like a more
JQ
player.
It's not even JC. Is not the person. JQ.
GQ. We're changing it again.
Okay,
we're changing it again. Here's what I've decided.
Okay,
I'm right. His name is wrong. His family's been spelling it and pronouncing it wrong all these years.
That's the most likely scenario, I think.
Yeah, that's my story. I'm going to stick with it. As for other, keep scrolling down, Jordan. I want to see if he showed up in any of our lineups here. Actually, I'm not even sure if he's in the FanDuel player pool.
I have my exposures then too, so we can, whenever we're ready, I'm done.
All right, so let's go ahead and start to look at some stacks as we wrap up the show. And as we've been talking, we have already mentioned most of the stacks it is that we're getting to. But Josh, is there a low-owned team outside of the Cardinals that you're making any kind of stand on for tonight?
Yes, the Yankees.
Okay, talk to me.
I think it's just Barrios ownership. I think it's as simple as that because I don't think that they look good by any means. The run total on that game looks terrible, but there's enough power in the lineup to care. Judge is still there. Torres and Stanton are in there. Fleury hitting fifth, I think, is really important at 2,400. I think he's getting underrepresented at 6% owned just because of his price tag. I don't have any problem filling out with a $3,900 Volpe at short, at LeMahieu in the leadoff spot if you need a first baseman for 3,400. I just think that their price tags and their ownership really work. And if Barrios isn't 30% owned, if he's 20, that's still like a really nice stand, I think, to take on the opposite side here. It's not a great park for it, but I don't hate it. And like, I have a little bit of Rortved, whoever the hell is catching for the Yankees today, flat 2K catcher. Not a guy I want to get a lot of, but if they're going to bury him in the 9 hole, I can bring that catcher along for very little anything. But at the same time, I don't feel like I have to get an abundance of a guy I've never heard of before 5 seconds ago.
I do feel like there's all these players are getting called up now at the end of the year we've never heard of, and their names almost sound like slurs, most of them. Like I see Jordan's reaction, we're saying players' names. He's like taken aback by it as if we're saying something terrible. It's like, no, we're just trying to pronounce these players' baseball names that we don't know how to say. And we're doing our best, which is admittedly not the best effort in the world, but we're
they're not calling up a lot of Jim Smiths and Jack White.
I mean, for all we know, like this Quinceañero guy, like that could be the Jack White of the Dominican Republic.
It's not.
You never know.
I've never seen that last name before in my life. But I took Spanish in high school.
How much time do you spend in the Dominican Republic, though?
0 seconds.
There you go. So there's no way to know for sure. For me, but by the way, I played the Yankees in single entry last night against Michael King, which didn't go well, but I don't regret it because King ended up being north of 50% owned in single entry. And it was kind of just me stacking the Blue Jays. They were all sub 1% owned. So I felt good about it when I saw the ownership. Felt less good about it when Vlad came up with the bases loaded. There was a pitch 5 inches off the strike zone on a full count that got called to strike 3. I was like, all right, that's how the slate is going to end up going. But in terms of ownership, like I could see why you would play the Yankees as this. Like I'm not playing Barrios in single entry because I think he's going to be crazy popular in single entry.
Agreed. I have very little of him right now. Care to guess?
Of
Barrios. Yeah.
5%.
2.
Okay.
It's interesting what my stacks ended up being. So I have 5 teams between 25 and 29 stacks. And then I have the Cubs and Giants that are sort of just like coming along for the ride. But 5 teams basically with the same stand. The Cardinals, the Rockies, the Yankees, the Dodgers, and the Twins.
Twins against. So I'm underweight to the Twins, primarily just because, let me refresh the ownership here. It's really just, so I have a lot of Twins as one-offs, not as many 5-man stacks of them, primarily just because they're 9% owned as a team now. So the third most popular team on the entire slate. Good spot to get to the Twins. Underweight to them as stacks, about even with the field when I look at them as one-offs. One other team that I do like getting to today that I think is going under-owned relative to their upside, the Atlanta Braves. There's just not very many spots where you could get the Braves as a low-owned team. We only have them projected for 5% aggregate ownership. So I do have 10% Braves stacks tonight. And the points per dollar, they're super expensive. Is not the best for that. But we know the upside this team has. It's one of the best offenses in the history of all of baseball, and very fantasy friendly as well. So I'm overweight to the Braves for that reason.
I wouldn't mind it. I'm not. I have 24% total, 7% of Acuna, 7% of Riley. That is half of it already. So I don't have no stacks of the Braves today.
All right. Are there any other teams that you're coming in? And I mean, the Braves aren't all that popular, but are there any teams that you are taking an underweight stand to on the slate?
Good question. The Brewers are pretty highly owned. I don't have a single stack. I have under 3% of them. The Padres, Rangers, I'm under on most of those teams. I think the Brewers and the Padres would be the answers to. They're the 2 most owned teams that I'm under on.
Yeah, for me, it's the Brewers. We currently have the Brewers projected for 8.9% ownership. So they're coming in just behind the Minnesota Twins. If you look at our current ownership projections on DK, we've got the Dodgers 17.6% aggregate ownership, 10.9% on the Rockies, 9% on the Twins, 8.9% on the Brewers. And that's, by the way, also kind of an interesting angle to the, like, Zach Thompson is somewhat popular and the Brewers are popular. I don't think that's going to be the case heading. Like, I think one of those is going to end up being lesser owned than projected. I hope it ends up
hopefully
being
Thompson.
I'm hoping it's Thompson.
You and me both. You and me both.
I find it unlikely that both the Brewers offense and Zach Thompson are going to be chalk on the slate. We'll see. Maybe pricing will dictate that ends up being the case because we have the Brewers with really good top value odds. And then we have Zach Thompson being a cheap pitcher that's projected for 22.6% ownership. So I'm hoping Thompson ends up being a little bit lower owned than we project. Brewers maybe a little bit higher owned, but we'll see as we get to lock. But I don't have any Brewers stacks today. And then also the Giants we talked about before. The Giants kind of ended up getting steamed a little bit here. 5th most popular team on the entire slate, and I have no Giant stacks either.
I have 6 Giant stacks, but that's not like I'm still half the field on the Giants. They're just sort of showing up as another potential value option here against Waldron. Like the most I have of any individual Giants bat is 5%. So I don't really have any sort of stand here.
And then we got Einstein. He wants to know any love for the Cubs tonight. Are the Cubs? I have 5% exposure to the Cubs, so nothing like real significant. They're projected for 4% ownership. So I guess by that, I'm like slightly over it, but no real stand for me on the Cubs. It's just a team that exists.
I do have 11 stacks. So I basically just have I either have the Cubs in a stack or I don't have them elsewhere other than Mike Tauchman in the leadoff spot. I think works as a really nice one-off just because of his salary. But for right now, I have 11 Cubs stacks, but that is like the 7th most stacked team that I have.
All right. Now let's see if there's no other questions in Discord, which there does not appear to be. Let's do some home run picks, and then we will wrap up the show for the night, Josh. So home runs, we could go with the one rule, nobody at Coors Field, right? We'll go outside of Coors Field because Coors Field is kind of like cheating. You pick Coors Field, as you might say, Josh, that's the Chris Spags home run pick of the day, where he's just like, like Mookie Betts in Coors Field. We're trying to be bold here. We're trying to have some balls. We're trying to make a stand. So with that in mind, Josh, who are you picking to homer tonight?
Let's find out. I'm filtering my data down to all the top possible plays.
Yeah, I'm going to do this. I'll do one based on the top home run bet at Odd Shopper right now. And then I'll do one from like my own lineups, which actually it could kind of be similar because the number one home run bet of the night over on Odd Shopper is Tommy Edman, who is plus 800 homer over on FanDuel today. So we have him with a 12% chance to homer today, which is good for a 12% EV over on FanDuel Sportsbook. So actually I'm overweight to the field on Tommy Edman today. So that pick would work for both, although I'm going to I'll pick somebody else from my own lineups here to homer.
Well, I'm not going to take Judge or Stanton, who both rank well. And most of the other guys in this list are not guys that I want to take because it's not fun. So give me Max Kepler.
Ooh, Max Kepler. Interesting. Who for me? All right. Boy, it really would. If you're going to go optimal here, the answer would obviously be some of these Dodgers bats, but that's where we're getting away from. All right. I'm going to go with Yordan Alvarez in Seattle, who's been making an obscene amount of hard contact as of late. By the way, a game that there aren't that many regular season baseball games that I look forward to, but you got the Astros and the Mariners more or less playing for a playoff spot today. Yeah. Two teams that are only separated by a half game in the standings right now. Only one of these teams is going to make the playoffs because it looks like the other AL wildcard teams. In all likelihood, you've got the Blue Jays locked into a wild card spot. You've also got the Tampa Bay Rays locked into a wild card spot. So only one of the Seattle Mariners or the Houston Astros are going to be making the playoffs. I'll be watching that game tonight, and I'll be rooting for Yordan Alvarez to homer, somebody who I got to as a one-off tonight. And
he looks great as a one-off today, by the way. I completely agree with you there.
Yeah. So Yordan Alvarez, that is going to be my home run pick for the night. If you guys have not done yet, do us a favor, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, check out our podcast as well, Stochastic Daily Fantasy. If you ever want to listen to Josh doing his MLB strategy shows in the morning, maybe you're on the go, on the way to work, in the car, stuck in traffic, nothing will make you feel better than hanging out with your friend Josh Engleman as he breaks down the baseball slate. So go check out the Stochastic Daily Fantasy Podcast Network. Leave us a 5-star review while you guys are there. Thank you very much for watching. Good luck with all your lineups. See you back here tomorrow.